Get ready, because today we're going to talk about 3 writing-related mistakes that killed Attack of the Clones. By the way, my name is Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of The Half Murders, and welcome to my writing channel. I don't know about you guys, but I'm haunted by the dialogue that George Lucas never should have given Anakin. I'm also haunted by some other glaring issues in Attack of the Clones, and today we're going to look at 3 of them and how they hurt the story. But first, I want to say something positive about this movie. Unlike Episode 1, which is a dumpster fire from start to finish, Episode 2 is legitimately entertaining at times. The last 45 minutes especially are a blast, and they actually feel like Star Wars. Everything from the factory scene onward is pure fun, and I was shocked by how much I enjoyed rewatching these parts. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the first hour and a half. Though Episode 2 starts with a decent assassination plot, things turn rotten pretty quickly as some major issues take root. The first mistake is bad dialogue. People nail this movie for its dialogue, and it's a well-deserved criticism. Characters speak like they're from a badly translated video game, and at times the dialogue is aggressively horrible. For example, remember that scene early on where Anakin and Obi-Wan chase an assassin into a bar? Before they head inside, they discuss the situation, and just listen to how many times Anakin calls Obi-Wan Master before they enter.
She went into the club, Master. Sorry, Master. Yes, Master. Yes, Master. I try, Master.
Why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
Don't say that, Master.
Master, 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 master. Once is enough, twice is tolerable, but when you have characters talking like this, it draws attention to itself and takes us out of the story. And you know what else takes us out of the story? Unrealistic conversations. And I get that the movie takes place in a galaxy far, far away, but in no universe should someone talk like Anakin does during the infamous fireside chat, or the I don't like sand speech, or pretty much any time he has a private exchange with Padme. A lot of people try to apologize for Anakin's dialogue. They point out that he's socially awkward, that he had a troubled upbringing, that it's realistic for him to speak the way he does around Padme, but here's the problem. If Anakin's a socially awkward guy, there must be consequences for that awkwardness. Padme should either be turned off by the way he speaks, or she should call him out on it. Better yet, she should tease him for it, create playful conflict, and build a rapport between the two characters. Unfortunately, however, we don't get anything like that here. What we do get is him unloading these brutal speeches that Padme absorbs with total sincerity. Not only are these conversations uncomfortable to watch, but they fail to ring true. Now compare that to Spider-Man 2. Remember when Peter is trying to win back Mary Jane and Dr. Octavius tells him to read poetry? Peter takes the advice, then he tries quoting a poem to MJ, and she shuts him right down.
I've been reading poetry lately.
Whatever that means.
Day by day, he gazed upon her. Day by day, he sighed with passion. Day by day.
Don't start.
That's how you write an awkward character. You let them be awkward, then you punish the awkwardness in a realistic way. Episode 2's second major mistake is poor pacing. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I love the final 45 minutes of Attack of the Clones. And those 45 minutes work because they do what they're supposed to do. They balance suspense, action, and character moments while driving the story toward its conclusion. In other words, they're well-paced. Unfortunately, however, the first hour and a half is not. Now, the opening act isn't too bad. You have Anakin and Obi-Wan trying to hunt down an assassin who gets killed by a bounty hunter. It kicks off the story with mystery, excitement, and character development, but from there, the pacing falls off a cliff. This is when the story splits into 2 separate plot lines. In one plot line, Obi-Wan has to play detective and track down the bounty hunter, while in the other, Anakin has to act as Padme's bodyguard. The story then weaves these 2 plot lines together, and in theory, this should be like lighting 2 fuses and letting them suspensefully burn down until everything explodes toward the end. But here's the problem. Anakin's plotline lacks suspense. Why does it lack suspense? Well, first of all, it fails to put the characters in danger. You know how in Empire Strikes Back, Han and Leia are running for their lives and falling in love at the same time? Their storyline blends thriller and romantic elements in a way that keeps the audience engaged. You have the urgency of the chase to make us worry for them, then you also have the romance to make us care more about them. The Han and Leia storyline alternates between excitement and romance, which keeps things fresh. Now, Anakin and Padme's plotline in Episode 2 doesn't do that. The characters are never in immediate danger, and the scenes themselves follow a safe, one-dimensional pattern. Instead of balancing thriller and romantic elements, we get romance, 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 then Anakin has a conveniently timed vision of his mother's suffering. That abruptly shifts the story toward Tatooine, and there Anakin investigates his mother's disappearance, locates her, slaughters the Tusken Raiders, and returns home. Essentially, you have a bundle of romantic scenes followed by a bundle of rescue and revenge scenes. Rather than mixing them together in a compelling way, the script goes on a mission to make Anakin and Padme fall in love before going on a separate mission to make Anakin begin his journey toward the dark side. If you want a better way of telling this story, have Anakin and Padme get to Tatooine as soon as possible. Don't have them rolling around in a field and talking about her ex-boyfriend. Have them investigate his mother's disappearance while facing danger together, overcoming obstacles together, and grieving together. Those kinds of shared experiences are what build strong relationships. Seeing two characters support one another and save each other's lives would do much more for this story than sand speeches and floating fruit ever could. Better yet, if you get them to Tatooine right off the bat, you have more time to explore Anakin's character growth. Which brings us to the movie's third mistake: rushed reactions. When we're talking about rushing reactions, we're talking about forcing characters to show emotion before it's warranted. Instead of exploring a character and how they feel about a significant event, the story hurries along to the next plot development. A major problem with Anakin's arc in this movie is that immediately after his mother dies, he wipes out the Tusken Raiders. Now, I'm not saying it's completely unrealistic for someone to react like this, but it does make for weak storytelling. Why? Because there's no time for his anger to develop. He finds his mom, she dies, and he kills a bunch of people in the span of a couple minutes. That's not enough time to create strong impact, and in the end, his mother's death feels like a cheap plot device rather than a powerful moment. Worse yet, the movie wastes an opportunity to create a compelling dilemma for him. Now imagine this. Let's say Anakin finds his mother and she remains alive long enough for him to take her back to the farm. There, he treats her wounds and tries to save her, but she dies shortly after. Anakin is then devastated and furious. He considers slaughtering the Tusken Raiders and mentions the idea to Padme, who tries to calm him down. That night in bed, Anakin can't sleep because of his anger. He sneaks out to hunt down the Raiders, but Padme stops him. She tells him that's not who he is. He's a Jedi and a good man, and he needs to stay that way. Anakin then faces a dilemma. Should he seek revenge, or should he be the man Padme believes him to be? Ultimately, his anger drives him back to the Raider camp. Though desperate for revenge, he finds himself torn between light and dark. He thinks about what Padme said, but then the sun rises, casting red light on the building where his mother had suffered. In that moment, his anger boils over and he murders everyone. This is a simple fix, and by introducing a dilemma, we create suspense and moral complexity. This gives us time to root for him to make the right choice, and when he doesn't, we feel betrayed and horrified. Ready for another rushed reaction? Let's jump to the scene where Anakin and Padme discuss his slaughter of the Tusken Raiders. I'll give this scene some credit because there's a steady build toward him admitting that he killed everyone. First, Padme comes in to comfort him, then he laments the fact that he couldn't save his mother, he complains about feeling powerless, and finally everything boils over as he reveals that he killed a bunch of men, women, and children. This scene isn't terrible, but what is terrible is Padme's reaction to his confession.
To be angry is to be human.
This is just laughable. Remember, she's supposed to be a diplomat, yet here she takes everything in stride after learning that her lover murdered a bunch of people. To be angry is to be human is not the reaction you want here. She should react with disgust and horror, and the scene should end on that note. Then, later on, after she's had time to process it and make excuses for him, then she can try to rationalize his actions and forgive him. But what we have here is a reaction that happens so fast, it throws you right out of the story. Ultimately, the core problem with Attack of the Clones is that the romance simply doesn't ring true. It's a shame because there's actually a pretty decent setup here. You have two powerful people feeling trapped by the institutions they serve, and they connect with each other before falling in love. In terms of the big picture, it's not a bad idea, but every step along the way is a stumble, and the romance never hits a natural stride. Whether it's bad dialogue, bad pacing, or bad reactions, these issues hurt the movie from the start, and whenever it has a chance to become interesting, it instead opts to become ridiculous. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: what frustrated you most about Attack of the Clones? Or what frustrated you most about the Star Wars prequels in general? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of any one of my books and be sure to leave reviews on Amazon. The Half Murders is great if you like horror stories. It's about a woman and her daughter who enter a haunted house. They get chopped in half, and for them, the nightmare is only beginning. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe. Maybe support me on Patreon. And as always, remember to keep on writing.